something big happened. Somebody, and we're talking, when I say big, we're talking big, like somewhere between 11 and 20 billion dollars of gold was said, we want physical delivery of it.
The original sin was that we created a tax system that punished you for making something in America and rewarded you for making something in China or a foreign country.
The top 10% of Americans own 88% of equities, 88% of the stock market. The next 40% owns 12% of the stock market. The bottom 50 has debt. They have credit card bills, they rent their homes, they have auto loans, and we've got to give them some relief.
Feel red flags about the contents of what is being used for weather modification, the lack of regulatory oversight, the lack of disclosure to the public, the lack of public consent. And here we are. Here we are at what I think is the beginning of this global conversation around geoengineering and fact finding.
Folks, we've got amazing updates from Dr. Kirk Elliott and also a couple of clips on these tariffs and how it's working out for all of us. Our financial world is going to be changing quite a bit. The tariffs were a huge move in the right direction. Obviously, we'll eventually see an even playing field, according to Dr. Kirk Elliott. The precious metals market is biblical. I also have information on the chemtrail bill passed in Florida. We're going to have that after the interview with Dr. Kirk Elliott and also Nicole Shanahan on how this will be looked into for all of us. It is going to be pretty amazing. You don't want to miss that. First, wanted to show you, of course, many are turning in and you're on social media and you're noticing all these protests across the country. It's interesting, right? Ultra Pepe Lives Matter said something really cool. I thought it was pretty important to say. The people are protesting in favor of stopping the exposure of money laundering, fraud, and waste of their own money. And these are also the same sheep who fell hook, line, and sinker for the COVID-19 government psyop and every other sham presented to them, but we are supposed to take them seriously. It's like watching sheep protect the wolves preying upon them. How is this even real? And of course, we'll cover a lot of this tomorrow. We'll get into some of the setup for it, and I've got some clips where pretty much have proof that Soros funded this whole thing. They're all getting paid. They have some folks that were interviewed, and they basically admitted it. They pulled out the piece of paper showing the talking points they were supposed to say. Anyway, so getting into the money side, already Israel, India, the EU, Japan, Vietnam, and Cambodia all plan to drop tariffs if Trump agrees to do the same. It's weird that Trump's plan is actually working as intended, says Tara Bull. Oh, my goodness. One after another, just good news keeps flowing.
The original sin of how the modern economy in America is structured, the president talks about more than anything else. And I guess to Caroline's point about the overall economic vision, the original sin was that we created a tax system that punished you for making something in America and rewarded you for making something in China or a foreign country. So in other words, if you had your factory in America, you paid a sky-high corporate tax rate, you were beaten to death with regulation, you had radically unaffordable energy prices, and Washington just in every way made your life miserable.
And the political class didn't do anything about it. They allowed it to happen.
Correct.
Well,
they sat by and watched it happen for decades.
They actually wanted the opposite to happen, especially if you look at the 90s when we had NAFTA, we had the WTO, we had the entry of China into the WTO. The goal very clearly was to remove U.S. tariff and trade barriers to make it easier for people to outsource to China. Because once we gave China what we call permanent normal trade relations, all of your manufacturers in the United States who are thinking in short terms, in terms of quarterly earnings and that kind of thing, they said, listen, now I can go move my factory from Indiana or wherever, I can put it in China, I can put it in Mexico, and I know I will have sure access to the U.S. market. Today, President Trump is saying the best place to make American products and sell American products is here in America.
Outstanding. One update after another. They have to keep it going because very few folks tune in. We think many do, but man, the information just keeps flowing. Well, if you guys didn't know, the Department of Justice has ended their lawsuit against Virginia for removing illegals from the voter rolls. This means that all 50 states can now remove illegals from their voter rolls. Let the purge begin. What else do we have? Oh, the Senate GOP approves bill to make Trump's tax breaks permanent. The bill passed 51-48 with Republicans Susan Collins and Rand Paul voting against the bill. The bill also includes $175 billion to continue funding the mass deportations. Wow. Also, President Trump said China's hit much harder than the USA, not even close. They and many other nations have treated us unsustainably badly. We have been the dumb and helpless whipping post, but not any longer. We are bringing back jobs and businesses like never before, already more than $5 trillion of investment and rising fast. This is an economic revolution, and we will win. Hang tough. It won't be easy, but the end result will be historic. We will make America great again.
The distribution of equities across households, the top 10% of Americans own 88% of equities. 88% of the stock market. The next 40% owns 12% of the stock market. The bottom 50 has debt. They have credit card bills. They rent their homes. They have auto loans, and we've got to give them some relief. That I was struck by the statistic from last year.
That's the message right there. Just as a bystander, I'm like, wow, okay.
All right. Or that, I like the examples, and I was really struck by two different statistics last year. Summer of 2024, Americans took more European vacations than they had in history. Summer of 2024, more Americans were using food banks than they ever have in history. I went into two food banks near my hometown to ask, what's the story? And they said, it really takes, for a lot of people, it's a loss of dignity to walk in a food bank.
Of course.
But they were seeing a new phenomenon, that it wasn't their traditional clientele. It wasn't people who'd lost their homes. It wasn't people out on the street. These were working families who could no longer, $100 at the grocery store, that basket of groceries every week, they were missing 5, 6, 7 things, and they were coming to the food bank to top up. So that's not a great America. Record European vacation, record food banks. And no reason we can't keep the record European vacations going, but we got to take care of these other people.
Interesting about the record European vacations. I remember when I was in Germany, there were folks from Germany that were getting, I think it was like they get 6 weeks of vacation. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, those that listen to me there. And they would head off to Australia and do RV trips for that entire time. And I remember going, man, you guys get to have a lot of time off. And they would just laugh and giggle. And I'm like, we'd only in the government service, we had to work for our leave and get so many, like 1.5 days per month or something. I think it's been a long time, but I think I remember something like that. The people telling you Trump is voting or Trump is wrong about tariffs were 100% wrong about inflation jabs and Ukraine, law and order, immigration, bailouts, etc. Don't even bother listening to them. They want their USAID money back. And let me get this straight, says Kate. Republicans haven't passed Trump's executive orders. They haven't stripped the D.C. courts or passed the SAVE Act, but the Senate had time to vote quickly on Tim Kaine's bill to end tariffs on Canada. So Democrats can get their America Last bills passed via votes with the help of Republicans, but we can't get the Republicans we gave a majority to pass the America First agenda. And one of those Democrats that came over on our side was Shanahan. We're going to be looking at a video clip of her talking about Kennedy Jr.'s HHS putting together a team to investigate chemtrails. But first, here's Dr. Kirk Elliott. Dr. Kirk Elliott, welcome back. andweknow.com/gold. Amazing link that we have below for this conversation. You can click on that link, folks, and reach out to Dr. Kirk Elliott and his team. Have the same conversation I'm having now. Ask any questions, and they'll also pray with you. It's absolutely amazing. So much happened this past week, Dr. Kirk Elliott. I mean, every single day something's going on, but we had the big tariff move. Finally, the Liberation Day hit us. Most folks that pay attention to the stock market and live their lives based off of that, of course, freak out. But it's the huge adjustment period that's coming.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty excited about it. And we've been watching precious metals transform also.
Well, Liberation Day, when I there was so much hype around it, right? And it's like, oh, this is coming, this is coming, this is coming. And then when Trump gave the speech, it was a really fantastic speech. And as I was watching it, I thought, oh, is this like a nothing burger? I've sort of heard all of this before, right? But then the more I was watching it, and when he started laying stuff out, I thought, oh man, this is not a nothing burger. This is a huge burger, right? So, I mean, it was massive. So I liked some of his language, right? Because he said, all right, I'm paraphrasing here, right? So it's like, our goal is to even the playing field out, because all these organizations, World Trade Organization and WEF and NAFTA and everything else, right? They've been abusing America, right? And other presidents went into these agreements thinking, oh, global trade, this is great, blah, blah, blah. And all it was horrible for America.
That's right.
So what Trump was doing is, hey, he's going to even out the playing field. So when he laid out his reciprocal tariffs, it's like if China had a 70% tariff on American goods going into China, then we should have a 70% tariff on them. Just say, okay, we'll just reciprocate. Whatever you do, we're going to do.
Right.
He didn't do that, though. He did a half tariff. This was the kind tariff, right? So at first I thought, man, I don't know if I like this so much. He should have been more aggressive. But part of tariffs is not just, so one part of tariffs is increasing revenue for America. The other part is using it as a negotiating tool.
Right.
Like what he's done with Venezuela, what he's doing with all these other countries. And so this is what the half tariff to me is all about. Because if we did a full tariff on Chinese goods, everything as of Thursday would have been 70% more expensive coming in from China. Okay. We haven't been able to rebuild, retool for the last 40 years, all the previous presidents have exported jobs overseas. The factories haven't been fully utilized. So you've got to rebuild the factories, got to retool them. You've got to train the people to work in the factories. Because just because Chinese goods are more expensive coming across the border doesn't mean that people are all going to buy American right away, because there isn't anything yet, because we haven't built the factories out. So this is why I think Trump and Bessent have said in 6 months, by the fourth quarter of this year, this is going to be Trump's economy. Up until then, it's going to be ugly. And even, do you remember, LT? It was, I'm thinking maybe 3 weeks ago we talked about how Trump had said, don't even watch the stock market.
Right. That's right.
Right. Because he said, this is going to be so great for America moving forward. Well, why did he say don't watch the stock market? I think because he knew what was going to happen on Thursday, the day after Liberation Day, because there's going to be and we talked about this, there's going to be volatility. There's going to be upheaval. The mainstream media narrative is, oh, Trump's tariffs are terrible and he's going to stick it to the poor. And this is a massive tax on the American people. And this is going to be horrible for other countries. The only thing that they had right there is this is going to be horrible for some of the other countries.
That's right.
Right. But not for America. This is going to be great for America. So here's where the half tariffs, as I thought about it, is actually brilliant. Right. So because what are some of these countries going to do? They're going to say, we don't want these tariffs on our goods. So we're going to lower our tariffs, right? Which would actually help everybody until we are able to retool and rebuild and retrain our workforce to actually work in these factories. Or here's the even cooler thing. Trump is a master negotiator, right? So,
that's right.
So China, there's no way, in my opinion, China's ever going to capitulate. They're going on economic warfare 101. They're going to retaliate with their own tariffs. They're going to do something crazy, right? So I was listening to Ackman. He has a massive Pershing Square. I mean, it's just a massive investment company.
Okay.
He said, leaders of other countries, he said this the day after Liberation Day, if you were smart, I would get on the phone, I would call President Trump and negotiate something like be first to do it, because Trump is going to be kind. When he sees that people are reaching out and, okay, we're going to use this as a negotiating tactic and do it, it'll be great for them. But for a few that don't, it's going to be ugly, right? So because what could Trump do? For China, for example, that has average tariffs of 70% on American goods going in, Trump's half tariff, I wouldn't be surprised if it goes all the way up to 70% or maybe even more.
Right.
So, because this is his negotiating power that's going to come from this. And this is going to help everybody in a big way.
Yeah.
Now, the minimum tariff is 10% on all goods in all these countries, right? So very, very few exclusions. So the minimum 10% tariff, maximum, well, whatever it's going to be half of whatever their tariffs and value-added taxes are. So this is where the stock market came down literally about 1,700 points on Thursday. 1,700.
Yeah.
And we told everybody that there's going to be volatility. Expect this. Trump told us too. Said, don't look at the stock market, and it's not going to be my economy until the fourth quarter. Well, what else came down at the stock market? Gold did, silver did, crypto did, everything did, everything. And I remember on Thursday, my phone was ringing off the hook at the offices here, right? And she goes, Kirk, what's happening to gold and silver? It's like, okay, here's my theory on this. All these big companies, these hedge funds, the Goldman Sachs, the Merrill Lynches of the world, they lost so much money on Thursday because the massive decline in the stock market and global stock market, they all came down, right?
Yeah, of course.
So when you're losing money, let's just put it into a story of families, right? Let's say you're losing money on something, but you have this asset over here that's worth something. It's like, okay, because our goal is to buy low and sell high. What has gold and silver done for the last year? It's gone up a lot. What have both of them done for the first quarter of this year?
Yeah.
In the first 3 months, gold is up like 19.4%, silver's up 19.6%.
Oh, yeah.
That's almost 20% in 3 months. That's on pace for an 80% growth year. I mean, the growth in gold and silver has been massive.
Yeah, it has.
Here's what I think is happening. These banks, these hedge funds, that are losing money hand over fist in the stock market, like what we said was going to happen, they're selling their growth assets to basically mitigate some of their losses, right? Because they have shareholders they need to respond to. So don't look at gold and silver coming down right after Liberation Day as like, oh my word, the trend changed. No, it didn't. It was I believe it's going to be very brief. Knee-jerk reaction, people having to sell something that has a profit to pay off their bad debts and use it as an opportunity to allocate more into a huge, strong bull market. Because what didn't happen on Liberation Day is, they didn't get all kinds of supply all of a sudden. The demand didn't go down all of a sudden. There's massive amounts of gold and silver in London all of a sudden. No, none of that happened. All of the fundamentals are still intact that were there before Liberation Day, which has caused its massive growth. Right. So until something like that changes, well, then we should say, okay, something fundamentally changed. Maybe we should start getting up, but nothing changed.
Yeah.
Tell us we have to keep getting in. Well, something big happened last Sunday. So last Sunday, the stories were coming. So we have to go back a couple of days. The Friday before. So the Friday before last weekend is basically a futures expiration day, right? So because April 28th is when the futures contract for gold is done. Well, the Friday, people have to basically tell COMEX, it's like, hey, I am going, all these futures contracts that we have, we're going to sell them, or we're going to roll them over into a new one. This is our intent.
Okay.
Or we're going to take physical delivery. All right. Okay. So what happened? Usually in the futures markets, these are speculative traders, right? They're just in and out. They're basically just want to grow their portfolio with cash. So basically these things just settle in cash. Well, something big is happening. Didn't happen this time. So what in the industry, in the futures markets, that day, which will be the Friday, last Friday,
right,
it usually goes into liquidation mode. These contracts start to liquidate. They start to just expire, and or the people close them and they settle in cash. Something big happened. Somebody, and we're talking, when I say big, we're talking big, like somewhere between 11 and 20 billion dollars of gold was said, we want physical delivery of it.
Right.
Like, okay. So if you want physical delivery of a futures contract that's highly leveraged, you have to be vetted to be able to pay for it.
Okay.
You can't just say, yeah, I'm going to buy it, and then you change your mind, or else you'd be investigated for price manipulation.
Oh,
Okay?
yeah.
So somebody has to be vetted that they have the money to pay for it. They pay for it, and then they can take delivery of the metals.
Okay.
That's what happened on Sunday. So 11 to 20 billion is leaving. So people are not selling their metals. They're taking delivery of them.
Oh, wow.
I don't think LT that most of the world actually, and there was a story from Germany. I bet you could find it, but Germany doesn't believe that the Fed has actually their metals anymore. They simply don't believe it. And so now it's this whole big thing. It's like, we want delivery of our metals, right? Which they tried to do this, same country, right? With Angela Merkel, probably in like 2011 timeframe. And the Fed said, we don't have it. We'll give it to you in 7 years. So they already have this preconceived notion that this gold isn't there. And well, granted, they're going to audit Fort Knox. Thank goodness, maybe, this is probably what they're hoping for. So they can prove to the world, our gold isn't there. What did they do to it? What did the Fed do to it? Right. So I doubt it's going to be there. They don't think it's there.
Oh, wow.
Right. So here's where so many people are taking physical delivery. It's not there. When you have low supply, high demand, prices are going to go up. This is why this is so important to all of the viewers. It's like when we do have low supply, it is running out on gold and silver. The demand is sky high. Don't think that the day after Liberation Day is the beginning of a trend in a downward direction. I don't believe that for a second. I believe it's the biggest buying opportunity to allocate into strength to protect and preserve. And when everybody's hearts were like beating really fast because the stock market lost 1,700 points in one day, it's like, you know what? Take that and get out of something that I do believe that we are in for a rough patch. In the stock market.
Yeah, President Trump even told us that. I wanted to show something real quick. It's just a clip where I always look forward to the positivity of leadership, right? Whatever's going on, we still have positive remarks from President Trump.
I think it's going very well. It was an operation, like when a patient gets operated on, and it's a big thing. I said this would exactly be the way it is. We have $6 or $7 trillion coming into our country. And we've never seen anything like it. The markets are going to boom. The stock is going to boom. The country is going to boom. And the rest of the world wants to see, is there any way they can make a deal? They've taken advantage of us for many, many years. For many years, we've been at the wrong side of the ball. And I'll tell you what, I think it's going to be unbelievable. The thing that people have to talk about, we're up almost to $7 trillion of investment coming into our country. And you'll see how it's going to turn out. Our country's going to boom.
Things are going to boom. And he said what? These other folks are going to say, is there a way that we can make a deal? So just exactly what you talked about. Yeah. He's telling us We're going to see if they're going to want to make a deal. You know, it's interesting. I saw a guy talking just a simple. He gave a simple way of how to make sense of all of this, and he took a lighter and he showed it, and he goes, "Look, this lighter's from China, cost $20. China's going to get $15 of this lighter, and the American business is going to get $5 for selling it." Right. And so he goes, "But I have this other lighter. It's $25 made in America. So it's more expensive. And so folks aren't going to buy it." Well, now with the tariffs, this China lighter is going to be up to $35, you know, and then this $25 lighter is going to be the one that you buy. Well, guess what? 100% of the money is going to go to American businesses.
Yeah.
And so if more people buy the American lighter, then that means the business grows in America, which means what? You have to hire more people to keep the demand.
Exactly.
And it was a very simple, you know, explanation of, and the other thing that really bothered me, Dr. Kirk Kelly, about all of this, that I don't know, the shocking thing to me, some folks say, well, we've heard it so many times, but imagine the people are paying attention to them for the first time. He holds that chart up and he's like, look, Cambodia, I think it was 97% tariff. China, I think it was 67% tariff. Like, so they're allowed to go after us, and every time something shipped over to their countries, they get to add all these taxes on it and make all this money and get filthy rich in their countries. But America, we have to sit back and let them do whatever they want to us and hurt us. And that really, really gets me upset. And I'll add one more thing to this. I was stationed in Japan as a Marine, and one of the things that really upset me was, where's the American cars? How come Japan just keeps to keep all their Japanese cars there in all Japan, but then we go to America and it's Japanese cars everywhere? How come they get to have all the money? It just, you know, there's just things that I noticed in just living life, like our daily life. All of us out there listening, right? We're living day to day and wondering, how does all this have an effect on us? And this is where I get real excited and pumped up about it.
Well, I'm going to ask a dumb rhetorical question. We all know the answer, but do people in Japan eat rice?
Yeah, of course they do.
Of course they do. I mean, you were there. So do you know what the tariff on American rice going into Japan is?
Oh, I don't know. Never looked.
700%.
Oh my goodness.
Like, okay, so why would anybody in Japan ever buy American rice? I don't know. But this is the problem. See, this is the uneven playing field, right? Yeah. And there's value-added taxes, and there's all the stuff that nobody even knows about. Yeah. Because what Trump is putting in place is value-added taxes, tariffs on American goods, and we're going to get retaliation. Canada on Thursday already retaliated. I assumed that they would. And they said, we're going to actually put a 25% tariff on all American cars coming into Canada now. Mm-hmm. And so if I were Trump, I'd say, okay, well, then we're just going to up your tariff again. Right? I mean, this is how it's going to play out. This is, and we are going to win because we're a much larger consumer base than these other countries. Right. And so I wouldn't fight Trump on this, right? So then, like we talked about last week, the 25% tariffs on automobiles doesn't matter what the kind tariff is. This is a special one. All cars made outside of America are going to get taxed 25% as they come across the border. That means like every car in the world, possibly even American cars, because it's not the country of origin, it's where they were manufactured. Mm-hmm. So what if Ford or GM have a manufacturing plant in Mexico because it was cheaper? Well, shame on them. Bring the manufacturing back to America, because that Mexican plant isn't actually hiring Americans. Right? This is what Trump wants to do. He wants everybody to be working in America because this is what's going to make us great again, make us wealthy again. And the tariffs as a negotiating tool, and why I don't want people to get all dismayed about what is probably going to be an ugly patch for a bit, you know, as we probably have an inflationary recession because of other presidents' dealings, not because of Trump. He needs to fix it. It's going to be a little bit painful short term, for a medium and long term massive gain, pendulum shifting moment, putting America at the top for generations to come, kind of a movement, right? So Taiwan Semiconductor, largest chip manufacturer in the world. Right. To avoid the tariffs, they're building a $500 billion with a B dollar plant in Arizona.
Oh, yeah.
So that plant, are they going to be hiring a bunch of Taiwanese people? No, they're going to be hiring people from Arizona.
That's right.
So yeah, bring in their money. And why did they do that? To avoid the tariff, right? So this is where Trump is absolutely magnificently brilliant in putting all of this together. It's almost like he's thought of everything. But this is our moment in time to regain what the enemy has stolen over the years.
That's right.
But don't think like a Pollyanna. I'm not thinking that the economy is going to be robust and magnificent and fantastic tomorrow.
Exactly.
It's not. We're going to have to go through a little bit of pain to get there, and it's going to be higher prices, not because of Trump. Yes, tariffs do bring higher prices, but there's no option to really buy a ton of American goods yet because all of our manufacturing has been exported overseas for the last 40 years.
Exactly.
That's not Trump's fault.
Right.
That's other presidents' fault. Trump is going to rapidly get our infrastructure rebuilt, companies coming in, building plants. Then our kids are going to have jobs. Our grandkids are going to have jobs.
That's right.
America is going to be vibrant. It's going to be like a renaissance, right? So, but in the meantime, I would allocate your retirement assets into safety. I would actually go into gold and silver for a while here, for quite a while.
That's right.
Because there's going to be a flight for safety. Tangible assets go up with inflation. These tariffs are inflationary because things go up with inflation. Last time I checked, gold and silver were a thing, right? So they're it's gonna grow. Take advantage of these trends. Really take advantage of them so they don't take advantage of you.
That's right. That's right. They can reach out to you for that. And we did that ourselves, my wife and I, with our IRAs, and we brought them over, and it's been a huge, it made a difference in our lives. That's for sure. Just watching it. Thank you so much for that. Folks can go to amweknow.com/gold in the description box below. Reach out to Dr. Kirk Elliott and his team. Great updates for all of us. Staying with biblical principles, folks. That's what this is all about. It's absolutely amazing. Thank you, Dr. Kirk Elliott. We'll talk to you again soon.
It's my pleasure. We'll see you.
The Florida Senate lawmakers passed SB 56, which would bar the geoengineering and weather modification activities in the state. Interesting. Here's a clip from some of that.
The DEP, right? We're talking about the Florida Senate passing a bill to ban weather modification and geoengineering. I just can't let this go. DEP will investigate any report that warrants further review and is authorized to refer reports of observed violations to the Department of Health and the Division of Emergency Management. In addition, listen to this. In addition, publicly owned airports are mandated to report any aircraft equipped with devices to modify the weather starting October 1st. I'm sorry, I just can't. Big D, just help me. I can't.
Interesting. Legislation bans the release or injection of chemicals into the atmosphere for the purpose of modifying weather, temperature, or climate. The SB 56 prohibits the injection, release, or dispersion of chemicals or substances into the atmosphere intended to alter weather patterns or sunlight. These activities would be considered third-degree felonies, punishable by up to 5 years in prison and fines up to $100,000. The House version, HB 477, was amended Wednesday, cutting the bill down from 10 pages to a single page. And through this bill, we are addressing modern environmental concerns brought forward by our constituents and eliminating any ambiguity regarding the legality of weather modification, Garcia said in a statement. And that would be, currently there is no system in place to track reports and concerns our residents have regarding geoengineering and weather modification. The bill creates a system to log, track, investigate, and mitigate if necessary so residents can separate fact from fiction and have a better understanding of what is happening in their communities, she said. DEP will investigate any report that warrants further review and is authorized to refer reports of observed violations to the Department of Health or Division of Emergency Management. Interesting how this continues to move forward. And now we've got the interview with Nicole Shanahan talking about this.
It appears that the Overton window has been blown wide open on the issue of geoengineering, atmospheric weather modification. And, the term chemtrails comes fairly loaded because there's an assumption when you use the term chemtrails that there's something harmful happening as a result. And that's why it's become the colloquial go-to term. And in fact, those who have been watching this and have dedicated their lives to tracking geoengineering, they are comfortable using the term chemtrail now because they have identified particles, materials, inputs that are being used for geoengineering and weather modification through aerosol injection that actually are harmful to human health and our ecosystem health as well. So natural systems such as soil, water, and air are being impacted negatively. And I do know that HHS is in the process of putting together a team to investigate this. Much is unknown. Some is known. We do know that cloud seeding does exist. We do know that counties throughout the United States have active contracts with private companies to cloud seed and thus bring greater moisture to arid lands. And this is all done under the umbrella of climate change mitigation. And so what we don't know and what HHS wants to figure out is the full spectrum of these activities and whether there is a fundamental missing regulatory body looking into harmful impacts of these practices.
Media line, again, is geoengineering is real, but chemtrails are not. That defies logic. They say out of pocket, we know that there's no harmful effects when we knew from Operation Popeye in Vietnam that it was lead iodide. How do we know? We lack the information. So what is your take on the utter lack of curiosity of the corporate media and their out of turn announcement that this is fine, nothing to see here?
I think it reminds all of us of the statement around the mRNA vaccines being safe and effective. Don't look under the hood. Don't listen to these conspiratorial voices. And in fact, there is quite a bit of active censorship or media manipulation that really deters individuals from furthering their inquiries and curiosity as to what's actually at play. And, I think that playbook of really using these derogatory attacks on qualified inquiries to shut them up. I mean, that reminds us all of what it felt like during those COVID lockdowns. And so there's a lot of parallels to be drawn between the COVID-19 era and what's happening today, which is this Overton window being blown wide open on the issue of geoengineering, people coming forward with evidence that is raising concern, real red flags about the contents of what is being used for weather modification, the lack of regulatory oversight, the lack of disclosure to the public, the lack of public consent. And here we are. Here we are at what I think is the beginning of this global conversation around geoengineering and fact finding and going up against, we don't really know what right now. Is this, I do know the Gates Foundation is involved in geoengineering. I do know Open Philanthropy is involved in geoengineering. I know that the World Economic Forum has pushed it and several universities are pushing for it. And sure, that's fine, but we also deserve, as the people, a full disclosure process and referendum opportunity to opine.
It's amazing how this truth continues to move forward. I mean, all you have to do is go on social media and just type in chemtrails and you just look it up and you'll notice just one after another post after another what partly cloudy used to look like with these puffy clouds and what it looks like now, just these streaks across the sky. Many have noticed it. Most of you understand how this is playing out, and we've had enough. We've really had enough. We think a lot of the spraying comes out of the back of these aircraft like you're looking at there. And it's really sad, and we are certainly hoping that this will stop, as it has a severe barium and aluminum and other things we've caught on these things. They've really caused a lot of problems, and I just want to see it go away. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you once again for continuing to help us through this journey. We have gotten so much information over the past decade, and so much more. It seems like we wake up every day and there's another thing we didn't know about. You know how much we can handle, and we ask for continued guidance to find out the truth, to expose those, especially those that are going against President Trump's agenda and his tariffs. We're starting to realize people we thought we could trust as politicians are starting to make themselves known as the old guard. Sleeper cells are starting to reveal themselves. We see it. Please help us to have some method of going against all of this, growing, and again, looking forward to the great things that will come for all of us in our country and throughout this earth when we see the evil removed. We ask for continued protection over our lives, over President Trump, his family, all of those that are working so hard in this battle. It seems like such an enormous task for all of us to deal with. And we definitely need help in waking up those that are so brainwashed. We ask for your continued protection. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen and amen. I want to tell you guys also just a reminder, if you didn't see this, we have free shipping and a free tote with any purchase on shop.mwknow.com. Use code APRILAWK, April AWK, and it's on sale now. All the flags and the floor mats and the aprons. I hope you guys jump on board and get those as they're available now. Thank you so much for your support. We love you guys. Thank you for the prayers. Have a great remainder of your weekend. For now, this is LT saying Semper Fi with them we know. Signing out.